Which is better out of these two champions of homegrown rock and roll? Well, naturally we're going to have a bit of a sound off between the two, but before we start I just want to say this is a classic example of what I've always said on Gear Facts, is choose the item that makes you smile. It's more than just the sound, and I don't mean to sound pretentious saying this, but the design, the way things look, the kind of logos that you like, you want to be happy every time you switch on an amp. So if something's really turning you off the minute you see it on the shelf, chances are you're not going to get far with it. Let's keep an open mind and try out some tones. As always, we'll be using the Fender Jaguar Baritone. So about 5 sounds there. I know that wasn't all that much to go on, but we don't want to be here all day. Editing is a little bit funny on this one. Basically you've got 3 lines and you choose your line using these buttons and make the adjustments that you want to make. So despite being very visual, I did find this a little bit hard to get my head around, to be honest. This middle one here is the effects chain, and you actually press the select dial down as a selector and then you can go through and change that individual effect. I am going to say that despite the initial confusion with operating this amp, I find its appearance just excellent, and its ergonomic design is really good too. All the controls are right at the front, very accessible. You can actually see the screen from a considerable distance. It's got this nicely designed internal handle on top, and it's extremely light. So it has a heck of a lot going for it. Let's have a quick look at what's on the back. Well, not a whole lot. There is a foot switch option, and of course you can connect by USB for direct recording or using the Librarian software. Notice the big bass reflex hole at the back. I'm actually not a big believer in bass reflex as an effective way of pumping out nice clear bass, but it's well designed on this amp and it does work. Over to the Marshall Code 25. As you can see, the screen is tiny. It almost makes you weep with just how small it is. So everything's very direct. You either just press a button to access the effect you want, or press combinations of buttons to get specific functions. All values are simply adjusted the same way we've been doing it for the last 50 years, and then storing things is just a long press on the button. So no menu diving. It really is a lot quicker to get where you want to be in terms of sound. The input and other sockets quite similar to the Fender. It's all located on top. Foot switch socket here, auxiliary in, headphones out. It is a little bit more convenient that it's got the USB on the top panel, so we don't have to reach around the back to plug in USB. In fact, on the back there's nothing except the power input and a bit of writing. Well, as is so often the case with the music gear I review, I didn't get long enough with these amps to really get a feel for them. I do have to say, when I tried the Mustang GT out in the store, I found it insanely noisy and had a lot of trouble bringing that under control. I did eventually find a noise reduction system in it, and it's pretty effective. Also, with the Marshall, first time I tried that, I was a little bit unsatisfied. I found it to be a little bit trebly and lifeless. Compensating for that in the guitar though, I found it's actually very gutsy and strong and quite true to the things that it models. Obviously, there are many Marshall classics on the menu with this one. So in terms of distortions and overdrives, very organic sound, and I did really like it. I found the GT to be a little bit better on the clean end. It has a lot of sort of magical sounds, a few insane effects. If you really like to experiment, and maybe your flavour is a little more modern, maybe this is a good way to go. Definitely more classic oriented on the Marshall Code 25. Physical differences, again, Marshall, much more classic in appearance. Fender has basically redesigned everything from the ground up. The editing system is quite vastly different. It's much more panel based on the Marshall because the screen is so small, and with the Fender it follows logically that with so much information on the screen it's much more screen driven. Most of your editing will happen around here. They both take auxiliary in, they'll both talk to a computer like I said, and they both have Bluetooth. I did stream some music before, and I think I found the Mustang GT to be a little bit more sort of hi-fi like in its sound, whereas the Marshall still sounds a little bit like you're playing music through a guitar amp, but both perfectly acceptable. So, unfortunately friends, and I know I do this to you quite a lot, but I really can't give you a definitive answer. It's really down to you assessing your goals, thinking deeply about your influences and the sound that you want to achieve. Like I said, we're looking a bit more modern on this side and a bit more classic on this side. So I'll finish by saying what I said at the beginning of the video. The most important thing is that you try them out in the store and buy the one that is making you smile. I can't emphasize that enough. Too often people buy things on specification or on the recommendation from the guy in the shop who will have all kinds of conflicts of interest, or advice from a magazine or website where the writer could have completely different influences to you. So buy the one that makes you smile, and thanks for watching Gear Facts. I'll see you on the next one.